Speaker Johnson said it's dead on arrival. And he is?
This clip that's been going viral for the last day or so was taken by a reporter who simply wanted to know Joe Biden's thoughts on the new bill proposed by Speaker Mike Johnson. But as you can see in response to this rather innocent question, Biden says something rather ominous. Now, as you can imagine, in the current political climate, this remark did not sit well with pretty much anyone. The New York Post called it bizarre, while the Washington Times called it confusing. Other people, however, are now wondering if this was yet another slip-up from Biden, revealing just who's going to be the next deep state target. Personally, I think the guy doesn't even know where he is or what's happening around him. And this lack of awareness was exactly the main point of Florida Representative Matt Gaetz, who really grilled FBI Director Wray on this subject during the last hearing.
Have said that he could no longer continue as a candidate. And so, since you're the FBI director, I was just sort of wondering, like, who's running the country? Like if something bad happened, you'd have to go brief President Biden about it right now? God forbid?
And on any number of occasions, I have briefed the president, and as I said, those briefings have all been uneventful and unremarkable.
Oh, I can imagine them being uneventful. But in the work where the vice president's also present, like you say, there's like more than half the time there's these briefings, she's there too?
I don't know if I said more than half the time. Certainly, there have been times where she's been present. There have been other times where she hasn't.
Now, this congressional hearing was highly focused on the FBI's role in targeting politicians for the president and hiding crucial information from the public. For instance, Congressman Cohen was quick to ask the FBI director if the president ever used the agency to target rival politicians like Matt Gaetz.
The FBI may be being weaponized. Did President Biden ever ask you to get involved in the case in Orlando, Florida, where Kevin McCarthy says that Mr. Gaetz is investigated for some sexual involvement with a 17-year-old girl? Did the president or anybody in the Democratic Party, as Mr. McCarthy has suggested, weaponized you and tried to get you involved in that case?
No, sir.
Another very important question from Congressman Cohen was about the Jeffrey Epstein files. He wanted to know if the three-letter agency was hiding information about the politicians who were involved in any way with the infamous billionaire.
Jeffrey Epstein, been in the news a lot lately about involvement with certain people high in politics involved. Did the FBI conduct the raid on his townhouse in New York when he was incarcerated in New York? There was a raid on his East Side townhouse.
Well, I don't know about a raid. I know we executed a number of searches in the course of our fairly extensive investigation related to Mr. Epstein.
Can you tell me if, during that search, if you came across and have within the possession of the FBI tapes of him with other individuals that he might have taken in people in compromising positions?
Yeah, I don't know that there's anything I can share related to that. I can see if there's information we can provide and maybe get back to you on it.
If there were tapes of people in prominent positions, friends of his he posed for pictures with, possibly in compromising positions, it would be, the public, I think, has a right to see those.
Well, I mean, how we handle evidence recovered in a criminal investigation has all kinds of rules that apply to it. I recognize the intense public interest in the subject, but we'd have to follow our rules. But I'm happy, like I said, I'm happy to follow up with my team on it.
Thank you, sir, and I appreciate your service, and thank you for being here today.
Yeah, those files are never coming out, that's for sure. Now, even though the FBI director straight up denied Joe Biden's involvement with any of the agencies, I'm a little hesitant to accept anything that comes out of his mouth. And I'm not the only one. Just look at what Utah attorney Jesse Trentadue said about the agency. Tired of the agency's apparent deception about the OKC incident records, the attorney told Headline USA, "It can fairly be said that the only difference between the FBI and Russian KGB is that the KGB never claimed to be a legitimate law enforcement agency." Those are some pretty damning words, but they just go to show how much fear and hysteria has developed in this country about the presence of some kind of deep state actors. This public belief is exactly why this video, which was retweeted by Elon Musk, received hundreds of millions of views on X.
I, Kamala Harris, am your Democrat candidate for president because Joe Biden finally exposed his senility at the debate. Thanks, Joe. I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist. I may not know the first thing about running the country, but remember, that's a good thing if you're a deep state puppet. I had 4 years under the tutelage of the ultimate deep state puppet, a wonderful mentor, Joe Biden. Joe taught me rule number 1, carefully hide your total incompetence. I take insignificant things and I discuss them as if they're significant. And I believe that exploring the significance of the insignificant is in itself significant.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time, and there is such great significance to the passage of time.
Another trick is trying to sound black. I pretend to celebrate Kwanzaa, and in my speeches, I always do my best Barack Obama impression.
So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
And okay, look, maybe my work addressing the root causes of the border crisis were catastrophic, but my knowledge of international politics is truly shocking.
The United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. It is an alliance that is strong and enduring.
And just remember, when voting this November, it is important to see what can be, unburdened by what has been. And by what has been, I mean Joe Biden. Do you think the country went to shit over the past 4 years? You ain't seen nothing yet.
Now, let me make it absolutely clear, that is not Kamala Harris. It's AI software mimicking her voice and saying these damning and outlandish things about Joe Biden's involvement with a shadow government. It might just be the same AI they used to create that awkward phone call from Biden, and that would make it even more hilarious.
It is so good to hear our president's voice. Joe, I know you're still on the call, and we've been talking every day.
As expected, most people quickly realized that Elon was just throwing a funny little jab at the Democratic nominee, but a lot of online users were furious at the Tesla founder for spreading misinformation. But I wonder where these people were when Elon made this tweet. Wow, Google has a search ban on President Donald Trump. Election interference? This is absolutely unacceptable and a blatant misuse of technology to manipulate information. And unfortunately, this trend isn't just limited to the biggest search engine on the internet. Different AI models like Meta AI are also spreading all sorts of misinformation about the attempted assassination of President Trump. Just look at this ridiculous response. On July 17th, 2024, an assassination attempt was made against former President Donald Trump. The incident occurred in Bedford, New Hampshire, where Trump was shot in the abdomen after a man jumped on stage during a town hall event. The suspect, identified as 24-year-old Jonathan Walker, was immediately subdued and taken into custody. Trump was rushed to a hospital and underwent surgery. His condition was reported as stable, and he's expected to make a full recovery. The incident is currently under investigation by the Secret Service and local authorities. Walker's motivations and background are being examined to determine the circumstances surrounding the attack. I don't even know if there was a single piece of truth in that answer from Meta AI, but things aren't better on other AI software either. Just look at this interaction with Snapchat's AI companion. Did Trump almost get assassinated in Butler, Pennsylvania? My AI responds, no, there was no reported assassination attempt on Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. The rally he held there on October 31st, 2020 proceeded without any significant incidents of harm or danger. I know some people will say that you should not trust AI, but you need to understand that these AI companions are now part of Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Billions, and I mean billions of people use these apps every day, and they often rely on these AI companions to get information about different subjects. So this kind of misinformation can be extremely damaging to a democracy. Now, Google eventually responded to Elon's claims by saying autocomplete is currently not working as intended. We're looking into these anomalies and working on improvements, which we hope to roll out soon. So basically, they just said, we don't know how it happened, and that is probably the most childish way to respond to something that is clearly alarming harmed millions of people. But that's just how these big companies react. They don't take any responsibility, even though they're the ones running the show. And speaking of taking responsibility, Democrats are now saying Kamala Harris is going to give this country the greatest solution to the problem of illegal immigration. I guess they've already forgotten about the time she jumped on a fake story about Border Patrol whipping migrants and made some extremely distasteful remarks. In an interview with The View, she said human beings should not be treated that way. It also invoked images of some of the worst moments of our history, where that kind of behavior has been used against the indigenous people of our country. It has been used against African Americans during times of slavery. And you're telling us this person is qualified to handle the extremely complicated issue of illegal immigration? As expected, people managing the Trump campaign were quick to point out this glaring hole in her resume in this rather hilarious new ad.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
This is America's border czar, and she's failed us. Under Harris, over 10 million illegally here. 250,000 Americans dead from fentanyl. Brutal migrant crimes. And ISIS now here.
Do you have any plans to visit the border? You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. I mean, I don't understand the point that you're making.
Kamala Harris, failed, weak, dangerously liberal.
Now, even though leftist media is saying she wasn't exactly the border czar, here's Joe Biden testifying against us without any hesitation.
I've asked her, the VP today, because she's the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle and the countries that help us. We're going to need help in stemming the movement of so many folks stemming the migration to our southern border.
That's going to do it for today's video. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to the channel. As always, I truly appreciate you taking the time to watch, and I hope to catch you on the next one.